Please welcome Scott Crowder, Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer at BMC Software, and Bloomberg Media Chief Technology Officer, Pooja Malpani.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pooja Malpani, the Chief Technology Officer at Bloomberg Media. It is my pleasure to introduce Scott Crowder, the Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer at BMC Software. We are here for BMC's advisory board spotlight on, if I forget the topic, it's right here, leveraging digital transformation. Scott, my first question for you is on hybrid work. As we get ready for the new normal in tech, it seems like hybrid work is here to stay. How are you preparing for this?
I completely agree with you. We actually started about 8 years ago, transitioning a lot of our different business systems to software as a service platforms like Salesforce and LinkedIn and all of the other ones that you can imagine, which really laid the foundation, I believe, for people to work and do anything from any type of device anywhere in the world. So that was one of the things that we really took that SaaS-first approach to our business systems, number one. Number two, the Unified Communications Platform was something that we started about 8 or 9 years ago as well, which really removed all the different telephones and devices out of all the offices and desks, which again gave us really that platform to do that. Overall, I think that from a hybrid work perspective, we laid the foundation, and then the pandemic hit, right? So we get the phone call March 12th, and we're all going home tomorrow, right? That was pretty much a non-event for us. I mean, it was horrible, all the things that were going on in the world with COVID. But besides for cranking up some bandwidth and a few more VPN licenses here and there, everything else really was seamless as far as our overall transition.
Were there any surprises? It sounds like you were more prepared than many of us. Well,
I would say that the surprises came in the areas of automation. So we had automated a lot of things, but laptop provisioning, for example, where people can just log in with their credentials when they get a new device and it just provisions itself, was something we didn't have, but something that we created. Really using some of the automation capabilities that we had at BMC.
Yeah. Now, from a CIO or a CTO point of view, what is our biggest opportunity as we embrace and redefine normal?
Well, I think that if you look at it from a human aspect, we're now working at home. We have the opportunity to really hire people anywhere in the world now to fill these various positions. And the office is not the limiting factor. The geo is not the limiting factor anymore. So I believe that we can pick up talent wherever we want with this hybrid work environment that we're in. To tell you the truth, I mean, BMC was already 45% work from home when we started for various job functions and things like that, as you can imagine, sales or service or support, those types of areas. But with the pandemic and with all the things that we learned along the way, having that flexibility on our hiring plans and also being flexible as far as the return to office is, I believe, going to help us in the talent war. And the talent war is real. I mean, it's the Great Resignation. Trust me, we saw it, and it's settled down now a bit. But that was one of the things that it gives us the flexibility to really work with our employee base and try to accommodate however we can.
Yeah. What do you think should be on the top of CEO's priority list when it comes to planning for tech?
Well, I think that if you're not really taking this public cloud software as a service mantra or SaaS-first mantra, I would certainly say that that's something that I would highly recommend. Again, these SaaS companies are connected to the internet. You're not going through VPNs or firewalls and all of that, so it just enables the technology to be easily consumed as an end user. Number one. Number two, I think that cybersecurity. Brian was just talking about it with Trellix, and this is one of the things that keeps me up at night. I think it keeps a lot of CEOs up at night. with the events in the Ukraine and Russia. I think that we're all more vulnerable now to nation-state actors that can try to penetrate our overall infrastructure and software, very similar to some of the other examples that were given. And again, I think, lastly, non-technology, having that flexible workforce and, really being able to accommodate those types of work environments is something that's very important as well.
This brings me to my last question, and then we'll take questions from the audience. Any words of advice for our fellow tech members?
I heard the word empathy a lot today, and I think that again, coming back to the human factor, this is something that we have to stay plugged in with our employee base, right? We have to make sure that we understand people that are struggling and people that are not struggling, and be aware of what's going on with your employee base. For example, we did a Glint survey recently, and this is one of the first all-company Glint surveys that we did, probably about 3 months ago. And what it showed us is that work-life balance is something that's a real problem. And if you think about it, when you used to commute to work, you would have 45 minutes of downtime in your car each way. You'd go out to lunch maybe with one of your coworkers, and that's gone now. So you wake up, you work, you eat lunch while you're in a meeting, and you've got all this extra time, which is actually proving to be more productivity to the overall corporations. It's about 15 to 20% because we're measuring transactional volume in Okta and other types of business systems that we have. And we see the increased traffic. We see the increased volume in even conferencing minutes, for example. So we were at 10 million conferencing minutes before the pandemic. We were predominantly Skype for Business, and we transitioned to Teams. And we already had Teams up and running, but the adoption had not really changed, right? Teams was something that when you think about it from a bandwidth and codec aspects, it's much more suitable for work from home. So, however you can, have these different unified communication systems and capabilities, that's very important. And then last but not least, and Brian talked about it, being at home, you do not have the firewalls. You do not have all of the technology that you've enjoyed in your offices for all these years now. So having that endpoint security, having device trust capabilities, and having the ability to automate as many processes as you can is hugely important to BMC, but also to any large enterprise or mid-sized enterprise that is struggling to actually get talent. And that's we hear about the 11 million jobs that are open right now. We know that there's 1 million security professionals that we're trying to hire. And it is that sort of war on talent, and however you can use some of these different tidbits to help your enterprises, I think would be very helpful, and just word of advice.
Yeah, no, thank you. Maybe we have time for one question. Well, we can wrap up. I want to thank you, Scott, for making the time and being with us here today. Also, thank you to BMC Software for the Advisory Board Spotlight.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.